Our next panel is about blockchain for the mass market, 2 ways forward. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to the moderator, a subject matter expert who is the project manager for blockchain at Bitkom, Benedikt Faupel, and his panel.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to our next panel here at the Hub Berlin 2022. Our topic for the next 25 minutes will be blockchain. And we already just now heard from one of the veterans of cryptography about the benefits and use cases that blockchain inherits. Blockchain technology has developed tremendously in the last decade, and especially since 2017 and the last year, it has become kind of mainstream, so to say. So you read it, you heard it. Our panel today is titled Blockchain for the Mass Market, and we are looking at the 2 ways forward. So my name is Benedikt Faupel. I'm project manager blockchain at Bitkom, and I have the pleasure of guiding through this panel and, of course, introducing our amazing speakers. Here with me today, to my left, Sophia Rödiger, who is founder and CEO of bloXmove. She is not only a business psychologist and author who has been shaping innovation and transformation initiatives in the field of digital mobility for over 7 years, but she has also led the global startup hub at Daimler Mobility, and she is particularly committed to mentoring women in technology fields, supporting their networking, visibility, and education, also in the fields of Web3, we just heard about it, DLT, and the metaverse. Welcome, Sophia.
Welcome.
To my very left, we have Peter Grosskopf, who is co-founder and CTO of Unstoppable Finance, a Berlin-based startup company with the mission to empower people around the world to access, interact with, and unlock the financial opportunities of the decentralized economy. And before that, he was CTO and MD at Börse Stuttgart Digital Exchange, and also co-founder and CTO of Solaris Bank. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
So, before we dig into the nitty-gritty parts of blockchain technology, I want to know, how did you get started with blockchain technology, and especially what kept you in blockchain to do this professionally today? Sophia, do you want to start?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, not that early and successful like David, so I did not invest in 27. But I started 5 years ago. You mentioned I worked for Mercedes, and this was the first time when Ethereum was very strong in the industrial context. So I learned to understand the mechanism of the technology and found it really interesting. How can we use that for financial or automotive services? And this was, yeah, my first moment, so to say, with blockchain. And then you mentioned that I'm a psychologist, so I was always interested in the new concept of trust when it comes to blockchain. And this was maybe also the passion of why I'm still working in that field.
Thank you. Peter, what is your story? How did you come to blockchain?
Yeah, so for me it was 2 different angles. So the first one was when we were building up Solaris Bank, and I got infected with the crypto virus end of 2016. I really asked myself, okay, if we're building a bank here and people in the future would be able to have the bank in their pocket, for example, with holding a Bitcoin wallet on their mobile phone in their pocket. So I started to wrap my head around, like, okay, so what's the future of banking? So how can banks actually also benefit from this development? And in the consequence, we also built up quite some business inside Solaris Bank, really supporting blockchain companies, for example, with settlement accounts and KYC products and all these kind of things. So then I also continued my journey working for Börse Stuttgart, building up a digital asset exchange, and then now also building up my new company, really bringing DeFi to the masses. But the second angle was I wrote my master's thesis in 2007 about data portability for social networks. The idea was, okay, how can I pull out the data from the silos, like in social networks, Facebook, Google, Amazon, and so on, and really make it portable and usable for myself. And now, almost 15 years later, we see blockchain technology really going towards the masses. And with non-custodial wallets, you potentially will have the place where you can host your data and really make data portable. And I think that's quite exciting to see now both worlds converging in what we do.
So, staying with you, Peter, you were talking a lot about adoption and your way, how you came to blockchain. But I also want to know, in what ways will businesses in the future make more use of blockchain technology? What is your go-to place where you say, okay, these are the use cases where blockchain technology will be used in the future tremendously?
Yeah, I think in general, blockchain and also Web3, kind of like as the major trend. So these days will be like as groundbreaking as the invention of the internet almost like 30 years ago, right? So because it will almost also have effects for almost any business that we see out there. So I personally have a strong focus on the finance business and banking business for the past years, and so therefore I also focus a lot on that. Blockchain, on the one hand, is like the transaction layer, so kind of the decentralized database to store something and also to move value from A to B. But there's kind of like this additional layer built on top with smart contracts where you can build applications. And I'm super fascinated in this manner, decentralized finance as being the full automation of financial services in the future. And so when I talk to regulators, for example, I always highlight that once financial services would be 100% automized, so delivered by a machine, we would might lose one of the biggest, let's say, enemy of the regulator, and it's the human who doesn't stick to the processes and manipulates in the background, and regulation mostly is built around that. And therefore I think it's super exciting now to have blockchains, have smart contracts, kind of really services fully automized, built on a global scale, and therefore, so I really see this moving forward as a strong trend in the next few years.
Exactly.
I think,
yeah.
Sophia, I see you nodding your head. So we've heard the DeFi, the finance aspect of it, but what are the technological advantages of blockchain for you? Because you have a very different product with bloXmove.
Absolutely, and that's, so first of all, and I think many people, when they hear blockchain, they hear about, or think about DeFi, so decentralized finance, financing, banking. What we did, we utilized the technology and brought it in the urban mobility area. Means we reconnect in a new way. I mean, the technology is the same. We reconnect in a new way all the transport operators. Because what we see right now, we have tons of scooter companies, bus, train, public transport, airlines. And what we see as trend is that more and more apps are coming, trying to aggregate and bundle these services. And we say, let's make it a bit smarter, and let's connect the transport operators coming from the back end. Yeah? So each and every transport operator has a node in that network, and as you explained, they can transact with each other, communicate with each other, and split consumption-based finance. And that's our sweet spot, I would say, that, for example, if we think one journey, you travel to Stuttgart, from Berlin to Stuttgart, you have a scooter with, I don't know, €3, then a short, maybe taxi ride, and then a train. And instant, in the same moment, we can split the single amounts to all the transport operators. And this will make it really huge when it comes to ecosystem, but makes it really efficient for the transport operator. So our job at bloXmove is making the life easier for all transport operators.
And so, if you look at, this is a big challenge that you have ahead, that you are tackling right now. So what do you think, which hurdles and obstacles also need to be solved, maybe especially looking at the organizational level, because mobility, it's a big organizational development. It's very hard to get from A to B, especially booking it in Germany, you all know it. So what challenges need to be solved there?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, one element is really the structure, the legal side, that we have laws for that, right? So regulation, because at the end, if you work with companies, you need a kind of regulation, right? So that's the base layer, so to say. When it comes to how we interact or discuss and develop with companies, it's really, the issue is you come in an already existing, well-working setup. So it's not that a company like, I don't know, Deutsche Bahn or Flixbus is waiting for us, right, and have nothing to do. So we come with something which creates effort on their side, because, as you explained, blockchain is nothing which you flunge or make an update. It's really something new from scratch, right? And this is where we have to find a better way in future. How do we design live labs or POCs, so proof of concepts, in order to test something? Because if it becomes tangible, then it's the first step for real change in structure, in behavior, and so on. Yeah.
So that's a keyword, a buzzword also, regulatory, organizational structures. Maybe also turning to you, Peter, what are the technological challenges building a web app, developing the tools you have, working on Web3? What are the technological advancements that you deem important, but which are also challenging maybe?
Yeah, I think like on the technology level, the one thing where some people also sometimes think like, okay, is this really a step forward or is this a step backward? Is the fact that once you deploy a smart contract on a blockchain, you can't change it anymore, or not that easy, right? So this brings kind of like with the deployment process that you have to like develop for quite a while, test it really statically and really make sure that everything is correct, and then you deploy it and then it runs forever. And I think in traditional businesses, the way to build applications is to have continuous delivery and like short development cycles and just like almost deliver code multiple times every day. And so this changes when you build for the Web3, and therefore you also need to kind of also rebuild and rethink the way you build your team. But kind of the positive benefit when building for the Web3 is that the protocol and the blockchain itself already delivers a lot of functionality that you don't have to implement yourself. So, for example, you have a global data center, which is like 1,000 times redundant, so because thousands of people are running nodes, and therefore you don't need to take care kind of like for DevOps and keeping your infrastructure running all the time, because it's there all the time. And building on top of these benefits, and also kind of that the database that you have underlying is super consistent and kind of like always available. I think this then also reduces the team sizes and makes development on the other end also more flexible, because you can actually deliver bigger stuff with less people and less code, and that's also an opportunity. And there's numbers for that. For example, there's decentralized exchanges, so which is trading facilities, let's say like tiny stock exchanges running on the blockchain, and they make kind of like 20 times the revenue per employee compared to the New York Stock Exchange, which shows that you can really build substantial businesses on top of the blockchain and the Web3, and kind of be super efficient and super fast.
So I think it's very interesting right now to have you both on stage, because you have very different products and very different use cases of blockchain technology. So I want to come back to the question of how will the implementation of your use cases change the way we engage with businesses? How can blockchain aid that, and how will it change this this interaction basically?
Yeah, cool question. I mean, first of all, really the beauty in that network is, first of all, the way of how companies interact with each other, right? That's the interesting thing, as I mentioned earlier. How we interact at the end with those businesses in my, so to say, vision and imagination, it's really like we have a wallet, yeah, maybe in our ship in a glass, for example, and then we roam through ecosystems like mobility. I check in and out when I'm in the train. Exactly in that moment, the ticket, so to say, goes on, and then I jump off the train and payment is done. So very seamless roaming. And yes, we interact really with the room, right? We have, I don't know, screens with wearables in the room, AI, virtual reality, everything will merge. And I think also blockchain has an important role in that. And then, as I said, we interact with a wallet. So we have a kind of wallet address, and this could be, yeah, like the SIM card in a smartphone. It is maybe something in our watch or glass, something like that. And then we interact on a very peer-to-peer based layer with companies.
Interesting. So this is a very direct and haptic experience also, how blockchain changes the interaction. But looking at web apps, looking at the internet, your application is way more technological in a sense that you don't have this direct haptic reaction. So how will it change the way we interact with businesses in the future?
Yeah, so I think I was talking a lot about smart contracts in my previous mentions, and like you can imagine, like a smart contract is like an open API that's available to everyone. So therefore, and as kind of people interact with non-custodial wallets with that, so that's kind of like the connector usually to use it. There's two ways kind of like built in this interaction that come like with one API that's kind of like the user interaction directly, but also other teams or other companies and protocols can integrate with a smart contract and kind of use their functionality and do some sort of, well, in the Web 2 we were also talking about the mashups back in the days, so when the public APIs became available and everyone was able to build something on top of Google Maps. So we will now see the same stuff happening, or we already see it happening, but on a much bigger value chain integration, because protocols and these smart contracts really deliver bigger functionality. For example, also like currency exchange, like trading exchanges for digital assets, like I mentioned before, and other teams and protocols can integrate with these money Legos and make them part of their product, and all is like interactive through the web. And I think that's a strong opportunity because people really start to use these. In DeFi, it's called money Legos. So they use these Lego bricks and build new applications out of it, and everything is happening at a very fast pace. So that, I also when I look into the traditional finance industry, it's really difficult to compete with that speed of innovation, because when everything is open and everyone exchanges and uses different functionality of each other, you can build much more complex stuff in a much smaller time.
So now I would like to widen the scope again, because both decentralized finance as well as mobility are inherently global features of our century. So looking at the differences, for example, between Berlin and the rest of Germany, but maybe also between Germany and other countries. So what do you think are the biggest difference between Germany and other markets when it comes to the application of your startups, basically, of your technology?
Yeah, what we see right now in the mobility area, I mean, it's always tricky if you have a system, for example, a mobility system like in Germany, which is, relatively well working, let's call it like that, then you have not that pain or pressure to change something, right? And what we see in other countries like Africa, Nigeria, for example, is also a test market where we are active with bloXmove. The speed and also the openness for adoption when it comes to a new technology is way higher than in Germany, for example, where we always speak about, is it cash or, I don't know, a credit card, right? So they're definitely faster. This is, for example, also why we started that test in Nigeria, based on a blockchain protocol, a peer-to-peer communication between drivers and users. And they are really open, also with the payment of, I take crypto for my mobility payment. And why? Yeah, because they have not that stable system like we have with the euro, right, which is really something safe. And I mean, I'm really thankful for that we are in such an environment. But when it comes to quick development and adoption, it's sometimes easier in a bit more volatile markets. Like I give that example with Nigeria, for example.
That's very global on the scale. So, Peter, what do you think the biggest differences are between Germany, Berlin, and the rest of the world?
Yeah, I think many people don't know that Germany is really strong in like blockchain development. And also what many people don't know is that even like parts of the core team of the Ethereum blockchain, which probably kicked off the big race of blockchain technology, was based in Berlin and was operated from here, like with Parity Technologies as the company behind it, and therefore we've been in the game very early already, and also. For example, BaFin, as the German regulator, also made statements about like Bitcoin trading and how to use the blockchain, inventing the crypto custody license or introducing it. So we've been super early and kind of like ahead the curve in comparison to many other countries, like really having a look at it and giving it some regulation. But at the same time, we still need to see that we're not too early all the time, because innovation is something which comes grown up, and so it starts with people experimenting with some things, So when the old blockchain as a technology was developed, I think many people did not believe that it's possible to run such a system on a global scale. And now 10 years later, we know that it works. And now the first business models are invented, and we see this Web3 trend ahead of us. And so now we really need to keep our feet also where we are also to some extent, and really see what comes out of it. And if we see the need for regulation, of course we can jump in it and introduce rules. But I think we need to give it space for experiments, because then we foster innovation also from Germany for the future, and I think that's what we all want.
Thank you for this information and for your statements. So, wrapping it up a little bit, we basically looked at the technology, how it can be applied, how it will change the way we interact with businesses. We looked into the world, what can happen, but now I want to come back also to Berlin, to Hub Berlin, because tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., you've heard it from Sarah a few times now, we will have the Federal Minister of Finance, Christian Lindner, here on stage. And later that day, we will also have the Federal Minister of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, Robert Habeck, here on stage. So looking more broadly at politics, what are the few key takeaways that you want politicians, maybe our ministers, our federal ministers, to take away regarding blockchain technology and the adoption of this technology?
One thing, first of all, I would like to say thank you, because what's great that, especially in the new paper of the coalition, is a very strong part related to startups and also to blockchain. So that's first of all amazing that this changed, right? I would love if they have even more proud of a startup scene in Berlin, but also in Germany. For example, last week we went to Paris, to the VivaTech, and Macron was speaking, and he was so powerful and motivating when it comes to the startup scene. And I would wish that also Germany is more prouder when it comes to the entire entrepreneurship and startup scene. So this is one point, a wish, I would say. And also maybe advice or idea, it's linked to what I said earlier when it comes to the structure and the system. Be more risk-affine, or taking risk when it comes to new technologies, because what we see right now, we have good decisions or moments when it comes to new mobility, like with subventions or a new app driven by the government. The problem is often we solve the problem with former pattern or with a bit more of the problem. Yeah, another app, for example, as I said earlier. Or now we, for example, give a lot of money, 3 billion to petrol, that we support and make a discount for I fuel my car. This is something where we fix the status quo. It's nothing, no investment in the future. And I think the technology is already there. Could be the entire system could be more open and more radical when it comes to let's try something really new. And this is maybe something you could say to them.
So quite a few things that our federal ministers should take to heart tomorrow here. Peter, some final remarks from your side?
All right, so to really make sure that the important points stay in people's heads, I say them twice. So kind of with the technology that we have at our hands, we can build global service, like 100% automated service at a global scale. So with smart contracts, especially for the finance industry, I think that will be a huge step forward. Also because it's much more easy to regulate if we introduce the right rules, and if we set also the right really the right incentives for locating these projects from Germany here. So for example, giving them a sandbox to experiment and really build their companies here. Because in the end, so if something is 100% automizable and if something can run on a global space, like in the digital environment, it will be done. And we have to make sure that these businesses will be operated from Germany and from Europe. So to really create jobs here, and also kind of also some tax payments for the government. And so therefore, so those would be my words to Christian Lindner, but we addressed it as well in the Digital Finance Forum, where I'm also a member. But so I think it's super important to really deep dive in this future technology and take the right decisions.
Thank you very much for your words, for your list. And thank you both for being here today. I think a big round of applause for our two speakers here on the panel today.